Previously on Balikbayan Not Missionary. Ay nako. If you put the two words together in balikbayan, you get someone who returns to their land. I want to talk about a very particular experience that shaped what this word balikbayan means to me: the Global Urban Trek. The Onisimo Youth Foundation Letre Malabon work camp. We're going to be taking boracay to all of you.
The name boracay is attributed to several different origins depending on who you ask.
Work camp. This boracay thing, for whatever it's going to be, was going to involve mud. Hey, can you turn me up a little bit?
Don't need to be a star, I'll just stay down to earth. Blurred shaded skin, my body a garden of words. Prose for roses, poetry is birth. From deep roots, yet a green shoot on elder shoulders. So a soul into a woman that becomes a man. So he grows, but soil turn it.
Yeah, the clean fade. My barber out here in Riverside really knows how to cut a clean fade, bro. And so we ended up having this little college student huddle together with the staff of our organization on the Global Urban Trek. We basically just talk about, do we really want to join this boracay activity if it entails mud? In this little emergency meeting, us college students are talking about how they don't want to join the mud activity, and we're already dealing with a lot of discomfort. Not even just discomfort, some of us had even gotten sick. So the idea of having to be in the mud even more than we already were didn't sound particularly appealing. But for me, as I was hearing these complaints, I couldn't help but hear the first worldness in these complaints. Something to me sounded a lot like privilege and entitlement in the complaints I was hearing. The fact that people were saying, mud, like I don't want to be in the mud, alongside of these very valid concerns, again, because people were getting sick. And so I heard that. And for me, I started thinking as I was hearing them, hold up, aren't we missing the point of why we're here, of why we traveled 7,000 miles to come here to the Philippines? As college students here on the Global Urban Trek, we weren't expected to run the show or say cool things or make people cry. All that was really being asked of us by this immersion trip was to do the same stuff that everybody else was doing. It was just to hang. To me, the idea of rejecting this thing that our hosts at Onisimo were very excited to offer us. I mean, they had been hyping this up throughout the week. The youth that we were working with were really excited about it. It did not look like a good look for us to be like, nah, this thing you're really excited about giving us, it looks a little too dirty for me. It looks a little too unsanitary for me. No, thank you. That to me seemed, in the moment, very wrong. In the context of the Global Urban Trek, it just seemed plain wrong. You know, I expressed some of this. I expressed my concerns in the nicest way I could think of, and I decided to join this boracay thing. Me and a few other college students from our group just decided that we're going to join anyways, even though there's going to be mud involved. And so we tag along with the youth, and our huge group was guided sort of to this back area from where we were having most of our activities in the camp. And right away, it became very apparent that the Onisimo staff had been working really hard on this boracay thing. Because what it turned out to be was this makeshift obstacle course that Onisimo staff had built from scratch that week. They had literally taken down some trees. They had tied together land bridges to make this elaborate obstacle course. And I had noticed the staff of Onisimo were leaving our sessions early. They would leave meals early. They'd be the first to wake up. They'd be the last to go to bed. I noticed that they were busy with something. And it turns out that this is what they had been doing that whole week. They had been working on this boracay obstacle course. Right away, we're just told we're going to race through this obstacle course, and us college students with our Onisimo youth just run through this crazy makeshift obstacle course that the Onisimo staff had made. So we climbed the land bridges, we crossed them, and right at the end, the highlight, the climax of this obstacle course was this huge pit of mud that the Onisimo staff had dug and filled for us to jump into at the end of the obstacle course. And we didn't know that this was at the end of it, but right when we got to the end of the obstacle course, they just told us to jump. And it's one of those sort of Aladdin, do you trust me moment, where you just have to decide to take the leap of faith or not. And we just did it. We had a split second to think about it. We're like, all right, well, we're already here, so might as well jump. And we all jumped into the pit of mud together. Privileged college students from the first world together with youth from the majority world who lived completely different lives from us. All of us were just together playing in the mud. I will always remember how beautiful that moment felt for me. In the middle of jumping around in the mud, laughing together, people pushing each other into the mud. Amidst all of that, the moment started to look like sort of a parable for me. The image of these very valuable things being hidden under the guise of the mundane, the ordinary, and even the unattractive. And so why I say this whole experience in the mud felt like a parable is that on one hand, it reminded me how, I'm going to use some Christianese language, sorry.
For the Lord!
I have a lot to unpack here. It reminded me how things of the kingdom, or very just valuable, precious human experiences, are hard to find, not so much because they're hidden or they're elusive, but because they're just overlooked. These very valuable, holy things are just overlooked because they seem to be ordinary, mundane, even dirty. That was one side of it. On the other hand, the mud represented for me these huge systemic realities that so many people like these Onesimo youth that we were playing with in the mud have to face every single day. We were just getting to see that stuff for a little bit vicariously for a few weeks. Because of these huge problems, the best thing that these youth had to offer us privileged college students looked like mud compared to the nice things our privileged first world lives were used to. Thinking about that, thinking about how these valuable, precious things are hidden under the guise of ordinary, mundane, dirty, but also how this was a parable and metaphor for what big, huge challenges and problems that people like these youth and the families they come from have to face every day. All of this sort of wrecked and disoriented my suburban bubble bred Christianity and just understanding of the world, to the point that I realized, looking back on that experience, I wasn't content with just being thankful anymore. For me, as a second gen filam, children of immigrants, it's a very important value for us to be thankful for what we have, because our family remembers what we came from, and to see all that was sacrificed to have what we have now in America, we, before anything else, have to be thankful. But after going through that experience, I realized, I'm not okay with just being able to say thank you anymore. I'm not okay with looking at this beautiful, full plate of food before me and just praying to God, thank you that I have food, because I remember all those people that I had been in the mud with who don't have these things that I'm thankful for. These problems are so big. It's like being stuck in the huge pit of mud. But I realized, even though I can't get rid of the mud, even though I can't get my people out of the mud, the very least I could do was be in the mud with them. As a privileged child of immigrants, the least I could do was go back and be in the mud with them. That to me is what it means to be a balikbayan, not a missionary. It's to come back to this land, even if it's messy, inefficient, hot, and filled with mud, just so I could be with my people, be with my Kababayans. That's what being a balikbayan not missionary means to me. Got a little more emotional than I expected. And so one thing I forgot to mention was that the main thing with the Global Urban Trek, aside from providing an immersive experience for college students in the minority world, is to invite each of us to commit to living and serving in a working class context in an international setting for around 2 years. All of us were kind of thinking, are we going to commit to this? Are we not? And maybe in another episode, I'm going to deconstruct sort of the ethics and the problems of doing this sort of commitment altar call type experiences. But for all of those things, we were all thinking about if we're going to say yes or no to this. And by the end of the global urban trek, I said yes. Because of all these things I experienced in the mud, a working camp, with the Letre Onisimo youth, I said, you know what? How can I say no? How can I say no to just being with my people in the mud? And so I said yes. But the thing is, this was in the middle of my college career. I had a few more life decisions sort of in between me in 2014 and actually moving here to the Philippines in 2019. And so this commitment to live here and serve here would be something I would have to continue to say yes to over and over again for the next few years. Well, that's going to be something we talk about in the next episode segment of the first episode, Balikbayan, that is still not done after a year. Stay tuned for next time when I talk about these times I had to say yes again and again until I actually came here to Riverside, Quezon City, Metro Manila, Philippines. And if you want to see that, do the thing. You already know, if you watch YouTube videos, you watch this vlog space or whatever space in YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, click the little bell so you get a notification when the next video drops. And until then, I guess we'll leave it at that. And so with all of that to say, maraming salamat. Thank you very much. Ingat, take care of yourselves. And your favorite balikbayan not missionary. We'll see you next time. Mga kababayan.
Iya, talaga naman.
That was not bad.